What's going on, guys? Joe Munoz, OneStepPrep.com, and in this video, a very special video, I would like to first take this moment to wish you and your family a very happy Thanksgiving. So much to be thankful for, and to have made it to this point in our year, in this unprecedented year, and have so much to be thankful for between health, family, friends, colleagues, and not just your family and my family, but our 1SP family here at OneStepPrep.com. You know, there's so many things that you need to pause and reflect on and be thankful for. And apart from family, one of those is the many relationships that we have with various airlines and entities. And specifically, I would like to talk about our relationship with John and Martha King. Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine I would go from being a 13-year-old boy watching John and Martha King inside of Microsoft Flight Simulator to actually working with them later on in my career. And one of those opportunities has been the opportunity to be featured in Flying Magazine, a magazine that I used to read on my lunch breaks as a 14-year-old boy washing airplanes at my local airport FBO in Merritt Island, Florida. Some of you know, some of you don't. I began my flying career when I was just 13 years old, and I was washing aircraft at 14 years of age, everything from Piper Senecas to Navajos, King Air C-90-200s, Beechjet 400s, and literally I would take long days and a lunch break and under that hot Florida sun, pick up Flying Magazine from the coffee table at the local FBO and read through this as I would chow down a tuna sandwich. I remember doing this very, very well, and never in my wildest dreams imagining that I'd be featured in one of the articles inside of this very magazine. So I'd like to take this video as a moment of thanks, of pause and reflection, to thank you for being a valued subscriber of ours, whether on YouTube, perhaps you're a member on our growing website, OneStepPrep.com. And frankly, just to thank all the relationships we have with the various airlines, the various entities, and most importantly with you, the viewer, for spending your precious finite time that we recognize very highly and to be very valuable with here with us at OneStepPrep.com. So I can't thank you enough from the bottom of my heart, and really our warm, heartfelt regards and happy Thanksgiving to you and your family during this season. I want to take this video to go through this Flying Magazine, and I want to read the article that I'm featured in here. And if you don't know, this is the August issue of Flying Magazine. And on page 30 of this August issue, 2020, you'll find an article titled Script for Life. And John King reached out to me. He called me on my cell phone and said, you know, we had just finished shooting the interview prep program. If you haven't seen that, you can certainly check that out on our website or on the King School's website. We had just finished shooting the interview prep program, and we talked in one of the meetings there while I was doing our interview prep shooting. We spoke about the script, specifically the procedures, the call-outs. The pilot flying and the pilot monitoring always has a script. They have something to say. And I related that to really being able to apply it to life. And John King, in his creative, one-of-a-kind mind, comes out with this article titled Script for Life. I could not have titled it any better. Script for Life, page 30, August 2020 issue of Flying Magazine. And he asks me for some input on how we could better articulate what exactly that script was about, perhaps to the pilot that'd be reading this magazine. And so I gave him some thoughts there, and he took it and did such a great job turning it into this incredible article that you're going to find here in the Flying Magazine. So I'd like to read through it with you, and then I'd like to expand a little bit on it and really, again, take this as a moment of pause, reflection, thanks, and quite humbling, if you will, and honor to be reading through this. And I'd like to share it with you and my expanded thoughts on it as I read through it. So here it is, Script for Life by John King. How scripts guide collaboration in aviation too. Pilot monitoring, making power, power is even. PM, I'll abbreviate pilot monitoring as PM and pilot flying as PF. Airspeed alive, 80 knots, my yoke, your yoke, V1, VR, positive rate on 2, gear up, select gear up, gear is up, clean wing speed, clean the wing, cleaning the wing. Wing is clean. Speed limit is 250 knots. Out of 10,000 feet, no speed limit. This is a recount that John King is going through, and we're going to continue to read through here. At the airlines, there's always a script. 80 knots, check. V1 rotate, positive rate, gear up. 400 feet, heading select in the case of a 737, right? Perhaps 1,000 feet, right? We go N1, speed to 210, whatever that call out is for your particular company. Frankly, it's really all the same actions that were taken. We have a thrust reduction and an acceleration altitude, but the call outs are slightly different, right? Depending on where you're flying. And we're talking about the script here specifically. Back to the article. I was serving as a required co-pilot and pilot monitoring for Martha, who was captain and pilot flying on this trip in our old Falcon 10. These were my call-outs and my response to the pilot flying on our takeoff. Pilots in training to be a co-pilot or pilot monitoring in the airlines refer to this as the script. Before a new hire shows up for training, they are given what is known as the Flight Crew Operations Manual, the FCOM, which includes the script. It provides the call-outs expected from the pilot monitoring at various times in the flight profile. The flight profile consists of the configurations required at various stages in the flight and the allowable speed ranges associated with those configurations. Joe Munoz, an active airline pilot and simulator instructor, tells us that failure to remember and perform the scripts is the main reason why new hires have difficulty moving to active duty. A lot of pilots, I say this many times, we run into 3 different types of pilots. The type that can say the script perfectly but can't fly the aircraft. The type that can fly the aircraft but can't say the script. And then hopefully we have the type that can both fly the aircraft and say the script. But all too often we do run into these pilots that simply have an issue or a challenge with the script, which frankly is good news because that's the easier of the 2 issues to correct. It doesn't require a simulator. It doesn't even require a desktop simulator, but really just time in a quiet room, much like in a classroom where I'm seated right now at our class here in One Step Prep, where you can sit down with the script in front of you and chair fly. Getting the script down is a big deal. The script sets the pace of the crew's response to the rapid developments of events in a jet. If the co-pilot stumbles in performing the script, events can quickly get ahead, both the pilot monitoring and the pilot flying. I always say the ladder of competence. Several videos that we have where I talk about the 4 steps of the ladder of competence, starting from a level of unconsciously incompetent, where you don't know what you don't know, to finally being unconsciously competent, where you know what you're doing so well that you don't even really have to think about it. And if you can ultimately elevate your script to the level of unconscious competence, where you can say the call-outs without even thinking about them, now you can consciously fly the airplane while you unconsciously read the script, and that's ultimately the level of a professional aviator. That's where we're trying to get. Pilots who come to the airlines from a single pilot, piston-powered background are not familiar with either the crew coordination or the pace. The script is a powerful tool that helps the new hire with both. In addition to the takeoff and initial climb, there's a script for every phase of flight. When my temporary loss of medical certificate moved me out of the pilot's seat of our Falcon, I watched Martha train her substitute co-pilots. I gained a new appreciation for the script. Some co-pilots, under the pressure of the tempo, had difficulty remember what they were supposed to do next. They failed to make their call-outs at the right time. The preparation you do in advance of your simulator sessions or time in the airplane is the cheapest, most efficient, and beneficial thing you can do in your entire training program. This is highlighted, it's underlined, it's in orange font as opposed to black because it's of significance. We spoke about this, John King and I, both in person and over the phone. The cheapest time and the least expensive time is the time that you spend preparing for your training prior to arriving to training, because it no longer costs you anything additional in terms of out-of-pocket expenses if you're at a training center paying for additional training yourself. And it also doesn't cost you the headache and the embarrassment if you're at an airline where perhaps the carrier is paying for your training, but simply you don't really want to be the pilot that has to go through additional training. Memorizing the script in advance of showing up at the simulator or an airplane solves that problem. Mutual command of the script is what lets 2 pilots in the airlines who have never met before fly together collaboratively and effectively. This is so true. So often we show up to the gate to meet a captain or a first officer whom we've never met in our lives. We've never seen them in our lives. And we fly together in unison, in perfect orchestration, as if we've rehearsed this so many times before. It is the procedures, the script, that allows us to do that seamlessly. Munoz advises the preparation you do in advance of your simulator sessions or time in the airplane is the cheapest, most efficient, and beneficial thing you can do in your entire training program. I've said it once, I'll say it again. This is the absolute truth, folks. Put time and value greatly your time in preparation. Showing up for training without being ready to perform the script leaves you figuratively trailing behind the airplane on a rope tied to the elevator. This is an analogy I gave to John King. If you show up not knowing your callouts, you're essentially trailing behind the aircraft by a rope hanging on to the elevator of the airplane, as I put it. And he put it in the script. Thanks, John, for doing that. Memorizing the script does not imply that the crew is not using checklists. Many of the events, such as a takeoff and climb, require strict attention to what is going on at that very moment. It's not time to be looking at the checklist. The actions, so let me expand on this for a second, because for a lot of GA pilots, they don't quite understand the concept of a flow followed by a checklist. You see, in the airlines, a checklist is really a done list. You're not doing an action, you're not taking the action and checking it at the same time as you're reading it. No, you actually have a flow that's part of this script, and you use the checklist as a done list to verify that everything has already been done. By memory, the checklist is to check that everything has been done, not to actually do it at the moment of reading it. The actions in those circumstances are directed by the script and flow procedures. At the appropriate time, the pilot monitoring uses the checklist to ensure all the items have been accomplished and announces completion of the checklist to the pilot flying. Munoz says showing up unprepared to perform the script is like going on a parachute jump and not putting on your own equipment. I remember having this conversation well with John King. You just jump out of the airplane and hope that your training buddy has put their parachute on and will catch you on the way down and hug you. This is so true. We see a crew show up for training, one far more prepared than the other, and the one that's not prepared hoping that the one that is prepared can carry them to a successful training outcome. Don't jump out of your aircraft, folks, without your own parachute, because doing so, as John King has included in this article, is like jumping out of your aircraft, that caravan that flies up to have jumpers jump out, right? And you jump out without a parachute, but you got a nearby partner and you're just hoping at the last moment you can hold on to them tight, they'll open their chute successfully and bring you to a gentle landing. This is not the way to go into training, folks. You want to have your own parachute. You want to put in your own time, your own preparation, your own due diligence. You want to stay disciplined in your training and moreover in your preparation leading up to the training. Even if the pilot flying does figuratively hug you, they won't appreciate having to do it. So true. It makes their jobs substantially more difficult. A surprising amount is expected of the pilot monitoring in a two-pilot crew. Very, very true. They are expected to be active participants in the flight. When Martha was training her co-pilots, she did a great job of setting the expectations. Start quote, "As my co-pilot, your help will be greatly appreciated, and I am soliciting you to," this is Martha speaking to her co-pilots, "make all the standard call-outs according to our SOPs, the script. Advise me if I am about to violate a heading, altitude, or course assignment, good CRM. Advise me if I am about to violate any aircraft limitations for the configuration we are in. Make call-outs if you become aware of something you think I should know of." Again, great CRM. "And if you have any other input, particularly if we are in a situation where you feel uncomfortable or if we are following a procedure that you see may lead us into trouble. I would very much value your opinion and expertise helping us avoid that." Great CRM. "Please monitor my autopilot and flight director selections. Verify that I have actually selected the setting that I tell you I have selected. Advise me if I have selected a mode that is not appropriate. In all cases, I will be most appreciative that you are helping to keep us out of trouble. Please monitor speed, actual and currently allowed, altitudes and altimeter setting, headings, navigation selections. My responses to you will be either correcting or thank you." End quote. As you can see, Martha was making the pilot monitoring a risk management partner in the flight. I love your wording on this, John King. I need to read this again because I just love it so much. As you can see, Martha was making the pilot monitoring a risk management partner. That is what you are in the airline environment, in the cockpit environment, in the crew environment. You are both risk management partners. You're managing risk. And when we remove the title of captain and first officer and perhaps the levels of seniority, of experience, and maybe a model that you've frequently seen where the captain's here and the first officer's here, sometimes in CRM training they'll show you these models. Remember to level the playing field and understand we're both risk management partners strapped into a vessel that flies quite quickly. Things happen quickly, and ultimately it's up to both of us to bring this flight to its safe conclusion. Risk management partners. Love the wording, John. A surprising amount of our non-flying lives is also guided by scripts. Those of you that know me well will know that I'm also an advocate for all types of personal growth ventures that I do outside of One Step Prep. Several other conferences, speaking events and engagements, courses and courseware that I develop for personal growth development and even instruction. So I'm a very fond advocate, and particularly I want to use this phrase right here, a surprising amount of our non-flying lives is also guided by scripts. I couldn't agree with you more on this, John. This is so true, and I apply it to my personal life. As in flying, a script aids in any collaborative endeavor. As Martha and I moved our teaching out of the classroom and into the video studio, following a script was a concept we had to learn. As opposed to being at the head of a classroom, teaching in a video studio is very much a collaborative effort. And I learned this very well when I was actually at the King studio. What an honor it was to do this. And we were working together. What an incredible, well-oiled machine and team that they have put together and assembled there, where literally what they call the on-screen talent, myself, would appear. And in a nearby room, we have an entire production crew working hand in hand together. We're literally dancing between the wall where they are keying up various elements of the presentation behind me. We have people monitoring the audio, the presentation live as it unfolds. It's just a true team effort. It really, really is. The script tells everyone what is going to happen next. Based on the script, the crew knows when to roll background video or when to bring in text on the screen, or a graphic or an animation. Another collaborative effort occurs when we meet someone for the first time. The mutual small talk that we engage in is based on a script we have all been using since childhood. Small talk is one of the many segments in the interview prep program where I talk about how to make an impression, specifically a first impression, a lasting, great first impression in the small talk phase of first meeting somebody. Love how you tied that in here, John. It sets the direction and pace of the conversation. It guides a dialogue that is used to establish common ground. We look the other in the eye. Nod, smile, and engage in small talk. If one of us does not follow the script, the other will feel unsettled. So true. Surprisingly, even if you fly single pilot, you should also have a script for your flight. As a single pilot, you have to perform the functions of both the pilot flying and pilot monitoring. Talk about a high workload. It is just as important for you to have a script for what you should be happening at any time, for what you should see happening at any time, as it is for a two-pilot crew. If you don't, you are in the same position as the new hire who shows up to simulator training without being prepared. So true. The problem is you don't have a second crew member who can figuratively hug and lower you gently to the ground. What a great way to end this article, John King, titled yet again, let me just refresh it. It's called The Script for Life. And that last line, the problem is you don't have a second crew member who can figuratively hug you and lower you gently to the ground. This is so true. Don't go into training, folks, without memorizing the script, your procedures and your call-outs. You want to spend time, cheaper, less expensive time, in preparation. Utilizing the programs that we have both at kingschools.com and here at onestepprep.com. What an incredible honor to read this article written by John King, the legendary John and Martha King, inside of Flying Magazine. Could not be more thankful for this, and what a time to stop, pause, and reflect on so many great things to be thankful for. As I mentioned, not only this, but for you, the viewer, who spends, yet again, your finite time with us here and values what we have to say at onestepprep.com. I can't tell you how much we value you, and we continue to look forward to produce great content for you to continue learning with us right here. We look forward to the remaining year ahead as we enter this holiday season. Wish you and your family a very, very happy Thanksgiving and happy holiday season. And we can't wait. We cannot wait to continue expanding with you in the coming new year.